Welcome, Internet, to the PixelPlay Podcast, your weekly gaming podcast where three friends get together to talk about all things video games, just like you did in high school, only now with more backaches and less free time. I'm one of your co-hosts, Kaylan, aka Catastrophe, joined by my co-hosts, as always, Adam at CS Radical and Chris at Jin and Chris. This week, we're going to be talking about PlayStation Pro, or PlayStation 5 Pro, what we think about it, if Sony missed the mark, and we're going to be talking about all that and more. If you like that and you like gaming content, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts by searching for PixelPlay Podcast, or you can find us on YouTube if you want to see your lovely faces as we make this podcast every Wednesday for you at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if that's not enough, we also have some bonus content for you Fridays at 12 p.m. exclusively on YouTube. With that being said, guys, there's been a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. But first, what have you guys been playing?
First off, I want to say, you speak for yourself.
No. First,
I don't have time to play games.
Stop for a second. How are you drinking a coffee at 8:30 at night, Chris?
It's decaf.
Oh, okay.
It is decaf.
Yeah, that changes everything.
Second question, why are you wasting your time with decaf?
Because, like you said, it's nighttime. I need to sleep. But
no,
I
it's
can't
because
stop
he has a
with the
problem. He
flavor.
just won't admit it.
I do have a problem. And this is the way to, 8 p.m. is kind of like a good cutoff for like caffeine. I hear maybe no one knows. Heck, it could not be decaf. They may have lied to me. It is Tim Hortons for those in Canada knows.
This actually hasn't been water this whole time, but
for years, been chugging vodka in the podcast.
I'm so alcohol like my consumption is so good. I have been drinking liters and liters of vodka every episode, and you have no idea because I'm just that goddamn coordinated.
Imagine what it would be like if you actually just drank water.
Yeah,
right.
Oh, the hydration.
I'd be even skinnier.
Your skin would look flawless, though. Come on.
I drink water. I drink water. It didn't work for me. This is all water.
Need more
weight.
decaf coffee. Water weight.
One of my favorite jokes, as a bit of an aside, Lewis Blogger used to make a joke about how he talk about all the nutritional facts of water, and he look at the label where it shows like the calorical intake and all that stuff, and he goes, total fat in water. Now what that implies is that there's water with chunks of fat in it, and I gotta find that water because that sounds like the tasty goddamn water.
That would be, just drop some, like a stick of butter in some water and drink it, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know if that's actually going to taste all that good, but
people do it with coffee. I've never done it. That's weird to me, but I know that there are people that would do that on some weird diets or something where I don't know. You
I'm
need,
sure
more
there's some
fat
place in the
diet.
world that does like this really weird ass latte that no one would ever drink except for the locals there.
This is true.
I think it's called Tim Hortons.
That's fair. As someone who doesn't drink coffee, that sounds about right.
And there goes that sponsorship.
It may or may not be decaf because
Add
we
that
don't
to the
know
list
if
of
they'll
people
actually listen when they give you the order.
Add that to the list of people who are not sponsoring us.
Well, it certainly won't be Sony by the end of this episode, but hey, we're not there yet.
No. Speaking of Sony,
I was going to say, we'll talk something good about it because Chris and I, we've put a little bit of time into Astrobot.
How dare you? You don't know I didn't spend time on Astrobot.
Kaylan, you spend time on Astrobot?
No, I didn't spend time on Astrobot.
Yeah, I figured as much.
So funny story. I bought Astrobot because I was like, hey, I got the weekend with my kid. Like, man, it made me sound like I'm a divorced dad. No, I was with my kid this weekend. That also doesn't sound good. Anyways, I was watching my kid and I was like, hey, you know what? He loves Astros. I like the Astros Playroom. I'm going to buy the game. So I go, I drop it, and I'm like, hey, check out this game. He's like, yeah, let's get it. I'm like, cool. We're going to play Astros this weekend. Cool. I buy it. I'm like, check out the trailer. Buy it. And then we watch the trailer. He's like, I don't want to play that. Let's just play the old one. I'm like, what?
Why would you want to play the old one? It's the same thing.
Because he's 5. He doesn't understand concepts.
Oh, see, this is when my dad version of me would come out and be like, son, you don't know what you're talking about. Look, I hear what you're feeling, but I'm going to change what you're feeling to what I'm feeling.
It's like, this is going to be a lesson to you, son.
Yeah. So I've got it, and it's like booted up to make sure it works, but I'm also waiting because I bought the Astrobot Playroom, or the Astrobot like controller.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I want to play that with the controller, so.
Oh, yeah.
That's fair.
That's fair.
And I'm also like still knee deep into Star Wars. Funny story. Been playing this thing for probably like 6 to 8 hours already. And I was like, oh, okay, like I've been doing a lot of side quest stuff. Like, let's go back to the main mission. I realized I didn't even start the campaign. Like, I got to the title screen, and apparently that's where I stopped because, like,
That
I had
sure
no idea what
sounds like a Ubisoft open world game right there.
No, it's not that they've told me to do like random stuff. It's just like, hey, I could go off and go bounty hunt. I could go and upgrade my speeder. I've just been doing random shit, not even knowing what this story's about. Like, didn't even get the mission. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna be taking on random missions from people. I'm gonna be the most helpful person in the galaxy. And they're like, no, there's actually a whole like story, which I didn't even realize when I was talking about it last week. So basically, the story is, it's like the Italian Job, or it's like, I guess better is like Ocean's 11. I gotta get a crew to do a heist. That's what I'm doing. 6 or 7 hours in, did not know that I was doing that. I was just doing random shit for random people in Star Wars land.
Oh, it's so good. That's so good. I mean, that's good, especially since I think you can do the main campaign in like 15 hours. So it definitely shows that this game has as much life in it as you want, where you could just, 15 hours into the game, where you're apparently halfway through the game without actually starting it. So you've got plenty of extra that you can do that you're actually enjoying, which is, I mean, the point of gaming.
Yeah. But I'm loving it. I am, like I said last week, this game is definitely a 7 out of 10 game with the caveat of immersion. This game is immersive as hell. You want to and would get lost in like a Star Wars adventure. This game is way beyond a 7 out of 10. So. But that's what I've been playing, or not been playing this week. So,
Playing or not been playing, making progress without making any progress yet.
But you guys have been playing Astrobot. What do you guys think of it? How? Don't spoil anything for me, but like, how is it? Is it as good as it lives up to?
Spoil what?
I don't know who like all the special characters. I know there's Kratos in it, but I don't want to like. Yeah.
Oh, like the cameos or whatever. Okay, yeah, we can easily talk about it without spoiling.
Well,
any of
the Kevin Butler scenario.
No.
I mean,
honestly,
I
do know there's no Concord in it.
Oops, you don't know that.
Sorry, how long
I
have
put
you
like 3
now?
hours into it. I intend to play it as a game that I'll be playing with my significant other because she actually really enjoyed watching it because it is super goddamn cute and adorable. So, but the time that I play, like Chris, I'm pretty sure we can both agree on this. It's basically Super PlayStation Galaxy.
Oh, 100%. It's Mario Galaxy, but in PlayStation form. And honestly, I like it better than I do Mario Galaxy, which is crazy. Yeah, I never thought I'd say that about a game. That's what's crazy. Yeah,
like,
it
so controls
good.
Just as well as you would expect it to. Like, it doesn't feel like it's any different from Astro's Playroom. It's just a much more expanded version of it. So, like, there's not really much to spoil. It's just what you remember from the demo is just essentially in a 15-hour game. And I say 15 because let's be real, you want to collect everything because it's chill. So yeah, I've seen people say you can be done in like 5 or 6 hours on a normal playthrough if you're just rushing through it. I'm like, but why? Why would you play this kind of game and rush it?
Yeah. Like this actually feels, for the first time in a long time, like I'm just playing a video game. I don't know if that kind of makes sense. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm trying to play something where they're trying to imitate something else. Like they're not trying to imitate an HBO show or a movie, but as a video game. It actually feels like, here is a video game. It's 1999. Go have fun. And it is genuinely like fun. It is so far, I think, my game of the year, which is crazy because it's just a pretty simple game, but it is just so much fun to collect stuff, to see all the different, like just random mechanics they keep throwing out there and stuff like that. It's just, yeah. And with like the PS5 controller, this is one of those games where you play it and you're like, this is why the PS5 controller exists. This is what it was made for, the way it feels, the feedback, the actual features in the controller that like most games don't actually use. This 100% is that game where it's like, I could not play this on a PC or on another system with just a normal controller. Like, this is something you need to play with an actual DualSense, which is a lot because I can't think of another game where I like literally couldn't play the same game with an Xbox controller and be like, it's not that bad. I'll just play it with this.
Yeah, like this would be a great Steam Deck game, but it would not be the same without the DualSense.
No.
What's the word? Haptic feedback.
Haptic feedback. Yeah. Like, there's no way. I wouldn't be able to see how they'd be able to do it, except that I'm pretty sure they could just make it compatible with the PC and like you can play it, but you got to use this controller. Sure. But still, like, yeah, this is like for the first time playing a game, I'm like, this belongs on like a PS5, and I don't think I'd ever want to play it anywhere else, especially just because of the controller.
And I'm
Yeah,
just
and I
watching
mean,
you guys watching the playback, and this is amazing. Like so much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna go great when we talk about graphical fidelity when we talk about the PS5 Pro in a second. But I will say as well, like very much like the original demo was, like this is such an easily approachable game for any audience because like even if you're trying to do 100%, it's really easy to do. Not because like it's easy to find everything, but because once you've beaten the level once, it gives you the opportunity when you go back in that there's something that you can buy for 200 coins, which is very easy to get if you just run through a level. You'll pretty much make that 200 coins every time, where it'll give a radar that will actually point you in the direction of when something's going. So when you're getting close to something, you'll start to see it beep and it'll let you know, okay, somewhere around this area it is, and you just keep kind of following it. So it's really hard to not get everything in this game. And even like I've gone through the first major boss fight, which is against like the big gorilla that we saw in the trailers. It's relatively easy to deal with. I mean, unless you're, I'm not sure like, your kid would be able to get it on first try, but like it's relatively easy to get a hold of it. I asked my significant other to give it a shot. She needed a couple of tries, but she also doesn't play games all that much anymore. But it's still a sense of like it's relatively approachable. So it's not a case of like, when there are some, at least not that I've come across yet, where there's like, some Mario levels later on in the game where there are some of like the some of the moons or some of the level design is a little more challenging, especially in some of those more hidden zones. Like there's a couple of hidden zones that I found so far in this game, and they're just as straightforward and simplistic as the others. It's just another level, so it doesn't feel like you're suddenly getting super challenged. Now it may happen down the road, but again, it's very much in the same argument that like I used to see people when it came to Kirby games where like they're too easy, where I go, sometimes that's okay. Like sometimes just a chill, easy game is nice. And that's honestly what this game has been so far. Like anytime that I've gotten hit, I laugh. Like anytime I die, I laugh because it's like, that's a stupid mistake for me. Because 99% of the time, if you lose to something, it's because you didn't do what you're supposed to. It's just didn't hit the button. You missed. It's more like skill issue than anything else.
Yeah. 100%. And it's just like so fun to go in there. Also, like even with like that radar thing you were mentioning, Sony actually is using their like game help or whatever that some games like don't even use at all. Yep. You can open it up and it's like community videos where it's like, oh, you're looking for puzzle piece 1, you're looking for rescue bot 5, you're looking for like the hidden exit or whatever. And there's actual videos you can open.
It's not even that, even though it's great to have, it's not even necessary because the radar does a good enough job, because the levels aren't so convoluted that you won't be able to see much. Like most of the time, if I miss something, it's one thing, and it's a very easy thing to miss if you're just going straight through the level and not looking around. Like there's a couple of times where as soon as the radar points at it, I go, well, that's what I get for not looking left that one time. Like it's something as straightforward as that. Like there really isn't. It's great that they do those, but I even say this is a case where this game doesn't even need that. Like it's that well designed, and that it's not not 100%. Something where it's like you got to go onto Game Facts and it gives you like a 2-page essay on what the hell you got to do to unlock this one thing.
Oh, no, not at all. Yeah, it's very intuitive. I keep finding things like in the galaxy and stuff I just didn't even know was there. And it's like the extra little
like
levels
like
and everything.
Asteroid just going around. As soon as you hit it, it unlocks a new thing.
Yeah, like it's so much fun. The first galaxy, I already 100%ed it. I just went in and like even if I beat a level and I missed something, like I instantly went right back in. I'm like, this is too much fun to not go back in and like just like leave one thing missed. Like heck no, I'm gonna go find that bot. I'm gonna go find that puzzle piece. I'm gonna go find this, that, and all the side levels are fun. The game runs really well. It looks beautiful. The controller makes it feel so much fun.
If there's an option to turn on fidelity or performance, because whatever it just runs at as a default is perfect.
Yeah, I don't remember. Was there? I genuinely
because it doesn't give you a choice at the start, and I didn't even think to look at options because I'm like, I'll just play it and see what happens, and I felt no reason to touch it.
Yeah, I don't think I went into the options at all either, so it must just be, kind of both. Like they just set it up, and there's no option to choose. You got what you got, and it's great. Yeah, I'm in love with this game already. Like I have only played the one day just because like I've been busy and such. But I can see myself just constantly sitting down playing for a few hours, and it'll be tough to like actually pull myself away. Sometimes with other games, I'd like remote onto my Steam Deck or something. It's like kind of like I would with say like a PlayStation Portal or something if I had one. But even then, it's kind of like I don't want to do that with this game because again, the controller and stuff. Obviously, maybe the PlayStation Portal will have the same feedback and everything. That could actually be kind of fun. But there's no way I'm going to remote into my Steam Deck. I feel like I'm actually getting a worse experience where every other PlayStation game I have, if I remote onto the Steam Deck and play on the couch, I'm playing my game. Like I'm happy as a clam just doing that, right? So this is like definitely the first time probably since I got the PS5 where I'm like, wow, this is my unique PS5 like experience, much like I feel when I would get like Mario Wonder or something on my Switch, where it's like, this is why I have this. This is why I have this system. This is why I play this.
Yeah, this is definitely the kind of experience that we would have wished that games like Forbidden West and Ragnarok would have been. I mean, not to say they were bad, but like because that they didn't really bring anything new to the table, it didn't really feel like a PS5 game. It just felt like an updated PS4 game. This one feels like a game that you can only play on PS5.
Yeah, I could not imagine playing this on a PS4. I know it wouldn't have the controller. I know it wouldn't have that like just enough smooth performance that you'd want in like a 3D platformer and stuff. I don't think this would have been able to be possible on PS4. And yeah, I love Astrobot. I think he's my favorite like PlayStation character. Like I think he beats everybody. Like sorry, Nathan
mascot
Drake.
They've needed for a long time, and I think they actually need to go real more heavy on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because honestly, and we'll get into it in just a second when we talk about the Pro, but like Sony is really missing on its fun variable again, and this would be a great way to start pushing that again.
Well, I mean, let's jump into it. Let's talk about it. So, like, big thing this week, as we're recording, like today, the PlayStation 5 Pro got announced. So let's talk about what they're offering, what the solution is, and are we going to buy it? So, if you missed it, and this is the first that you're catching it, thanks for waiting for us to tell you about it. But the PlayStation 5 Pro is real. It's going to be released on November 7th. It is going to be 45% faster in terms of processing capabilities, has a larger GPU, AI-driven upscaling. And what that means for us as gamers is that we're going to have a system that is going to be able to process things better, meaning that we're no longer going to have to choose between performance or fidelity. We're going to have it where ray tracing is going to be like even more powerful. You're going to be able to start seeing like ray tracing done on like the sides of cars and stuff. So, but the trade-off is this thing has a price of $700 USD. So the questions I want to ask is like, one, do we need this upgrade? Two, did Sony kind of shoot themselves in the foot with the $700 price range? Are you guys going to buy it? So let's jump into it. First off, is this enough? Like, is this what we needed? Is this enough of an improvement to justify upgrading?
Assuming that the PS6 will come out in say the next 3 to 4 years, I think this is fine. Like, because I think it's what it should be, which is a system that basically says, okay, you don't have to worry about choosing fidelity or performance. Now you get everything. So that makes perfect sense. What doesn't is everything else. That's Chris, honestly, conceptually, the console itself makes sense. Just everything else around it doesn't.
Yeah, Chris, what about you? Like, do you think that this was enough to justify, like, for them to release a PS5 Pro? Not getting into like everything surrounding it, but is this enough of an improvement to justify releasing a new console?
On paper, yes. When you think about even last generation, which I wasn't even a part of back then, like I was a pure PC guy at the point, but Xbox had its Xbox One X. I am a nerd. I am. Thank you. Xbox One X, PS4 Pro, PS4 Slim, Xbox One S. Like there was all the different versions that's come out, and it's not just Xbox and PlayStation that does this. Even Nintendo does it. They never have a Pro version, but they always have the normal Switch, then there's an OLED Switch, then there's a Switch Lite, and there's a different Switch Lite for like, oh, here's a Zelda one, here's a this, there's a that. Like buy all the different versions. So it's not like consoles are that type anymore, where it's one console comes out, you get it for 7 years, and then you move on. It really isn't anymore, and it hasn't been that way since. Well, I was about to say the PS3 and Xbox 360, but even then, I think they got a bunch of different versions that were put out. Like I remember PS3, I think there was 3 different PS3 versions by the end of that console's life cycle. Now I know they weren't like a Pro, but it was like the normal PS3 that had PS1 and PS2 backwards compatibility. They removed that, made it a cheaper, different looking console, and then they made a slim right at the end of the PS3's life cycle. So like they were always coming out with stuff, but I think that like these pros, these like upgraded versions, I think they're here to stay. I mean, the first time the PS4 Pro and all that was announced, I was like, I don't know if this is kind of good. It's kind of like you're buying a PC and then you've got to upgrade it a few years later and you got to keep doing this. Like consoles are becoming more like PC, which in a way can be good, but also in a way is like taking away from what consoles were. The original Game Boy lasted like 11 years or something ridiculous, right? Like you used to just have something and be able to play it. But I do think like it's not unexpected. The actual like stats of what's coming out on paper seems like it makes sense and it is like a worthy upgrade to call it a pro. I think they kind of said it perfectly where you pick between fidelity and performance, and now you'll kind of get both. Now, whether I trust what they put on paper is another thing, but if it is true, then yes, I do think it's a worthy upgrade for a pro.
It's interesting because like I understand like the trade-off, like the not having to choose between performance and fidelity, but it's funny that like when they were showing off the PS5 Pro, like they oftentimes had to show like, hey, this is what it looks like in comparison, because it's like the improvement isn't there enough that you can like see it and you're like, you can totally see the difference. Like I felt like when PS4 Pro came out, it was like, oh yeah, I can see the difference here.
I think the problem with that now is like the graphical fidelity is not really what's changing anymore. I think it's just the idea that like it's just slightly sharper, there's more lighting effects, but now it's 60 frames. I think it's the 60 frames is doing most of the lifting here.
Agreed. Yeah. But like it's just funny because like it doesn't come across strictly when you look at it where you're like, oh man, I notice a huge difference. It's like, no, I have to see it compared to the PS5 to see, oh yeah, I can see how it's improved, but it doesn't jump out as like a, oh yeah, I can totally see the improvement right there.
And I think the downside too is that like what they showed in this video, I don't know if it really does it justice yet. It really, I don't even think when it's all said and done, it'll be like that massive an improvement visually. It'll just be more, like I said, the frame rate. But I'd really like to see like if Digital Foundry, for example, when they get their hands on it and they can do a proper look at it, I like to really see like what they find. Because God only knows what Sony's, either trying to hide or just didn't show enough of to kind of really get a better idea of it. Because it could just be a case that, well, on a compressed YouTube video, it's not really going to look the same as it would if you actually have them side by side personally.
Fair.
But
fair.
I still think that even if that's the case, I don't know if it's necessarily going to be so different apart from the frame rate and the ray tracing being combined that it's going to be something so transformative that it feels like a essentially $300 price increase is worth it. I think that, and that's the ultimate question is what they're offering worth that? Which, by the way, doesn't even come with a disk drive or even a fucking stand so it can go up vertically.
So let's talk.
Or a controller as well if you don't even own the console yet.
No, it comes with a controller. It comes with one controller.
I thought it didn't.
It does. So let's talk about price. Yeah. So the price that we have is $700 US. We are Canadian, so we are paying about $950 for this console.
I think the official was going to be $959.
So I'm rough estimates $950.
Yeah.
But yeah, $699 US. And like Adam said, it does not come with a disk drive. This is for the disc version. You'd have to buy the disc drive separately, and it also doesn't come with a stand. Did Sony kind of
you could considerably like on ourselves if we wanted to have a hard drive version of the console, stand it up vertically, and also have a second controller so we can play with a friend or with our significant other. We're looking at like $1,200 for this.
Now, I want to put like an argument here because everyone's like, "Oh man, like it only comes with like one controller and stuff." You have a controller. No one is jumping into.
Well, no, but the argument is if you don't, like how much you have to spend.
The people who are buying this are not people who've held off buying a PS5. This is for
so the
hardcore
change is
people.
Still $1,100 then.
Yeah. I'm just making the argument that like this is not for the casual. Oh, maybe I'll get a PlayStation. This is for the people who. This is for us. This is for.
Apparently,
game enthusiasts who are gonna buy it. No one's dropping. I'm here. I'm still here. I'm struggling, but I'm getting by. No one is who's a casual is gonna look at, hey, I'm looking to get a PS5. I'm gonna go for the PS5 Pro for the extra money. They're just gonna get the basic one, right? the people who are going to buy this, or the target market for this, are people who already have PlayStations, right? So that's kind of my argument there. Like, I don't think that's a big deal about the controllers. I do think that
I guess the conversation changes then of like, okay, well, is it worth the people that are in the niche audience either?
Oh no, and that's definitely a conversation. Like, you guys know me, I am the Sony pony of this show. And even I'm like, I can't justify this price, right? I am a physical disc person. I'm looking at the price. You're getting over $1,000 before you can get into a PS5 Pro. For the sole thing that I could choose whether I get performance or fidelity, that's not something that's worthwhile for me. Like, even if I were to sell my PlayStation, I imagine at best I can maybe get $400 for my PlayStation.
Yeah, you're probably still looking at putting at least $500, if not $600, and if you're going to go for the drive and the stand as well,
right? Which I'm going to, because I don't want to, like, my collection of games, I want to be able to play those. So like, and the fact that they don't offer a vertical stand, you literally are showing me the console standing up vertically, and you're going to charge me for a piece of plastic? I could 3D print that for 10 cents.
Yeah.
Like, why are you charging me for like a stand? Get out of here.
That is ridiculous. I can get the whole like no second controller, like that kind of stuff. All the consoles just come with the one controller. That's what they do. Accessories sell. That's what they need to do. But a stand, that's like an Apple move. That's like a thing that where it's like, hey, here's this new Apple computer, but if you need it to actually like sit on your desk, here's, you know, a stand you have to pay for extra or something.
Wait, I just remember there being an Apple
stand.
Well, here's my question, because like with my PlayStation, like I'm still using the stand. You need the stand to rest it on its side. Does the new console not need a stand to sit on its side?
I don't know. I imagine it would, but I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, this is bonkers to me. Like the price being worth it. I'm not a Sony pony. Well, I guess if I had to pick a console, like I am in a way of Sony pony. Like I loved Sony from PS1. I did skip PS4, but again, that's just because I just stopped with all consoles and went with one thing to simplify my life, and then for some reason decided to go into a gaming podcast and buy every console that exists. But I do love PlayStation. Like that's one of the reasons I've been loving playing Astrobot. It's like an homage to the entire history of PlayStation, and it feels so good to relive all of that, right? But there's just like they're making so many weird decisions, and it's like a PSVR 2, you know, $900, PS5 Pro, you know, $900. Again, these are all Canadian prices, but you kind of get the idea. And it's like what, like they're not being checked. Like no one is being like, yo, we're not buying your stuff. You're doing stupid decisions. It's like, because I guess Xbox is struggling, they're like, cool, we're in the lead again. We get to do whatever we want and charge these ridiculous prices.
It's full PS3 behavior right now, even though they've had two catastrophic failures in the last, like, basically year with the VR2 and now Concord, and they're still not learning.
Yeah.
I think it goes beyond that. Like, even, like, the PlayStation Portal, I think, would be a minor success, but even like I think it's like
to say it's not a failure. So if you're going there, I was about to be like, nope.
Yeah, no, like the PlayStation Portal is a minor success, but like even like they had like the Pulse Explorer like $300 like headphones. I don't see anybody using or advocating for those. Like I imagine those are a failure.
Yeah, but I wouldn't really go to those as being like part of the overall problem, because it's not really with like.
It's a pattern. No, it's a pattern of them overcharging for like their equipment, right? Like you look at those Pulse headsets, and those are pretty much like those are more expensive or pretty much on par with like Apple headphones, or they're like the Google headphones. Like they're top tier, and I don't know if they necessarily are.
Are these the Pulse Elite ones?
This is not the headset. These are like the Pulse earbuds.
Oh, the earbuds. Okay,
yeah, I was going to say like, I think they retail for like $350.
Yeah, they're like really, really, really expensive, which makes no sense at all. Like if you want a PS Plus Portal and those earbuds, you're buying a PS5. It's just like, why is that so
$269 is what I'm seeing on Amazon.
Nice. But yeah. For me,
I mean, like, once again, Sony Pony, I bought some so I have wireless headphones to play with my Portal. I don't think they're worth that price.
No, like I have the Pulse Elite headset, like the actual over ears. They're only like $199, like Canadian, and those are actually really good. They're a huge upgrade from the original 3D Pulse. Like that was like, I remember I bought those and I put them on and I was like, oh my God, Sony didn't screw me with an accessory. Like this is amazing. It actually feels worth the $200 I played at regular price, which obviously there'll be sales and you can get it for probably 175, 150, whatever. Again, all in Canadian dollars. But it seems to be like for every one hit they've got with a good thing, there's, you know, two really weird, expensive decisions that follow it, where it's kind of like this. I'm not saying this Pro doesn't make sense because again, we're halfway through the generation, but why wasn't the original PS5 lowered in price and then this was put in around where the PS5's price is now? Because that's what I think they did.
I could
with
see
PS4?
$599 because I did the research. The Pro launched at $399 US when it came out in 2016. Inflation, it's about $522. So you know what? If it was $599, I think we could all go, yeah, okay, fine. But because it's literally almost a $200 increase from what they would have charged for the Pro if it had come out today for PS4, no, I'm not seeing, like, this just seems like absolute greed at its finest here. Now, maybe the equipment they have put in it maybe is that expensive and that has to be what it's charged, to which I go, okay, then you need to actually market this better as being much more than just, you know, an update to your console. You need to market it like it's meant to rival gaming PCs, because that's essentially the audience you're targeting at that point, because it's no longer the console audience. Because the whole thing with the console marketing, we've been over this before, is it's meant to be for families that can't afford a PC. So it's meant to be the affordable option. And if the Pro is now supposed to be the gaming PC option, market it like that, and not just pull us, you know, by our ears and be like, hey, look at this thing. Isn't it a little bit shinier? It's like, yeah, but I can't afford it. But look at what you could get with it. I don't think you understand. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
Like they like don't seem to, I don't know if they're just afraid to market it in this way because they think they're going to lose buyers out of it. And instead, they have made a really stupid decision to just market it to everyone so that no one wants to buy it.
Yeah, I don't know who this is for because it's too expensive for just like casual console gamers, that families or whoever would buy consoles. But it's like it's not good enough for like the gaming PC audience, or at least it's not being marketed towards them and pushed like, hey, look what it can do, look at this, look at that. It's like you're making
like,
it almost as expensive as the PC market, but you're not going for that.
So it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Like it's like, which market are you going for at this price? Because you're not going to get the console like casual gamers, which that's what PlayStation and stuff was. Like most of the people I knew that had only PlayStation, they had kids, they like to play games themselves, but they weren't looking for the crazy PC specs or price. They wanted something simple. They could maybe play with their kids. They could play their own, you know, like Kaylan, you and I, we could play Star Wars Outlaws. We can do that kind of stuff. It runs well and it's easy and it's like not ridiculously expensive. Whereas now it's kind of like, hey, here's something that's kind of the cost of a PC. You're not going to get the freedom of a PC because, again, it's on your TV. It's easier. But again, at that price, you could probably get a PC. You could buy a Steam Deck and a Switch and a couple games, but you know, you're going to just have this device that's more expensive than you can afford if you're a console gamer or just want that, but kind of still just out of reach of that PC gamer crowd that you're not really reaching to try and get, which is probably who you'd have to go for, like Adam's saying. Like it's weird, the spot they put themselves in.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, this might have been a thing where Sony maybe shouldn't have pursued a PS5 Pro. I don't think that there was a way that this could have gone well for them. Hear me out.
No.
I was fully on board with the PS4 Pro. It made so much sense. Hey, we're going to do it right now. You can get 60 frames per second, or you can get 4K resolution, or you can get HDR. Those were huge things. Like 4K TVs were becoming popular. HDR TVs were becoming a thing. There's not been that development in the home audio video that justifies, like, I'm not missing out on anything.
No, it feels like it feels like a slight upgrade.
Yeah, it's not even a slight upgrade. It's just the idea of like, hey, now you can have 4K and 60 frames per second. Maybe, because even the way Mike Cerny said it, he didn't say like guaranteed. He says, or like we're gonna try and eliminate the choice. So it's not, doesn't sound like something where it's gonna be 100% 4K 60 frames.
Yeah, that much of an up price does not warrant a try.
Or even like even if it works for 90%, but like no one was kind of saying, hey, why aren't games doing this? Like yeah, people were complaining, but like to do this, you would not have been. You would have to do it for this price, or you're gonna have to make sacrifices. And it's like maybe what you should have done is just sat on this and launch a PS5 6 in like 3 years.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is going to do. This is not doing much for this price. Either make it more affordable so it's like a no-brainer upgrade, or save it till the specs and the capabilities become enough that it's a no-brainer purchase. You've kind of done a half step with a full step price.
Yeah.
So I'm of the mind that maybe Sony should not have done this at all and just kind of sat with it, because like most people have said, the PlayStation 5 has not lived up to its potential of what it can do. Like we've not gotten to the point where exclusive games are even happening yet. Like Horizon was like we've only had 3 or 4 games that are exclusively PS5 games. Maybe it's more than that, but like we are so far into the console and had so little games that are exclusive to it that I don't know if this was necessary, and I don't know if this was a scenario that Sony could have come out on top either way.
I mean, I think it's possible. It's just the price really is what's kind of like put everybody off of it. Because I mean, I think if this thing came out, like we're talking Canadian dollars right now, if this thing came out at $749.99, I think we're going, yeah, that honestly, that makes a lot of sense. But because it's $200 more than that.
Now here's the thing, though.
Definitely a big part, yeah.
Here's the thing, though. But like technology as a whole has gotten more expensive since the pandemic. So like, I think that I don't think that they're not trying to make a profit on this, but I think there's an aspect where the cost of just making this has gotten astronomical. Like if you look at PC stuff, like with everything that's been going on, like computers are more expensive now and parts are more expensive. So I don't think that there's a way that they could have made this drastically cheaper without cutting costs.
Money. Then I think that they need to market as being a high-end niche product for like the gaming PC market, because and I know the reason they don't is because they obviously don't want to make it seem like it's not for certain people, but like the way that they sold it, it basically just pissed everybody off. Like there was no winning this fight, and so it really begs the question of, okay, maybe they just shouldn't have bothered, because like it seems like there was a no win to this.
Yeah. And another thing that upsets me about this is it feels like this is just trying to fix the promise of the original PS5 in a small way. The original PS5, when it was, announced, the reason I got back into consoles, besides, like, podcasting, all that, was that, like, I had a PC, and the reason I got PC originally was because of, like, backwards compatibility and stuff like that. I was like, the PS4 is not going to play PS3 games. I'm pissed off. I'm going to go build a PC. I was being a baby.
That'll show 'em.
I was a very happy baby in the end because I loved my PC. But also, once you play, like, PC games at 60 frames per second and everything back then, like, there was nothing like that on consoles. You could not get it. It was a huge difference. They were two different worlds. But then all of a sudden, the PS5, the Xbox Series X, they're like, hey, I mean, it started really with the PS4 Pro and stuff, but 60 FPS or 4K, that's what you're going to get. And the PS5 came out and they upgraded a bunch of the PS4 games. Like I played God of War for the first time and a bunch of other like PS4 games. And they were actually at 4K 60. They were fully running. And I knew that was because they were PS4 games and the newer games wouldn't be fully like that, but it would be like, it'll be 1440p at 60 FPS, or you can keep it at 4K, but you got to drop it to 30. And it was like that little bit of a compromise, but you always knew what you're getting, and I would always choose 1440 with that 60 every time. And it was like that for a couple years, and then all of a sudden, it stopped. Like, they pushed ray tracing, or they pushed whatever they did. Developers were hitting the snags they were hitting. And like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at 60 frames per second was unplayable in the open world areas. It was so blurry, and Digital Foundry, when they did all their stuff, it was like less than 720p, which is not what obviously these consoles were supposed to do. And I get it. I'm not saying development's easy. Obviously, technology changes and they're trying to keep up, but they were obviously going faster than what the consoles could do. Yeah,
it also leads to the argument of like developers are now like trying to get too heavy on the graphics when the reality is like, again, we need to stop worrying so much about how shit looks and how it plays again.
Exactly, because if you just pull it back. So look
at Astrobot.
Yes, Astrobot looks amazing. A lot of, like, when they were showing these games in the PS5 Pro, like, no, look how much better Ratchet and Clank will look. Look how much better Spider-Man 2 will look. And Horizon Forbidden West. Those games looked fucking beautiful back then. Like,
also,
I played
it doesn't
them.
look any different.
and it doesn't look that different. But
Not
they
not
looked
$1,000 different.
No,
It's like,
when I was playing them,
the windows on that truck in Spider-Man 2 are slightly shinier. Oh my god, here's $300 extra right now.
exactly. It's like these minor tweaks that's like a PC setting that honestly I would have turned off to leave it go as, as performant as possible.
Like, do you guys remember that like Unreal Engine trailer they did for, I think it was Unreal Engine 5, where it was in that like cave system and they were showing just how the lighting was? Now, if it looks like that, you have an argument. Because I think there's two things with this reveal that make the most difference and why people don't care. It's the price, and it's also that the improvements don't look like it's worth that much of an extra price tag.
No. And Sony, again, with this PS5 Pro is like up to 120 frames per second in 8K resolution, which is what they had on the box of the PS5 originally. And then they updated the boxes and got rid of like the 8K because no, not one game was 8K. What are you talking about? And now they're like, oh, no. Remember that thing we said originally PS5? Now we can do it. 8K up to 120. You'll be like, I don't believe them that these games are going to come out and all of a sudden be 4K 60. I think the first party Sony games from the early PS5 will, because they have full control over that. But they were the games I weren't concerned with. When Astrobot was coming out, I wasn't going to be like, oh, this is going to be a blurry mess. No, it's a Sony first party. If there's going to be Last of Us Remastered, Spider-Man 2, Horizon, God of War, they're all going to have a performance mode and they're going to look amazing. They're going to be perfect. And if I want to switch to the 4K, I will. It's the third party that's really the ones that are getting hit because they're doing multi-platform. Hogwarts Legacy had the odd thing. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth just like it looks like it for 60 FPS got hit with just like mud. I don't even know what happened there.
It's getting to the point that the conversation is becoming like, should we just like stop going after fidelity mode and just stick to performance?
Yes, 100%. I think so because like even if you take Jedi Survivor. I couldn't play that at 60 because it wasn't a stable 60. It was like 60 down to 40, up to 60 down. It's like, that's not a performance mode. That's a like Wild West
That's trying
mode.
our best mode.
Yeah, that's trying our best mode. So they built it clearly with fidelity 30 FPS in there, but it's with all the ray tracing and all this extra stuff, which like, sure, it looks nice, but I would have played Jedi Fallen Order without all that ray tracing, and I fucking loved that game, and I thought it looked beautiful at the time, and still do. Why can't I just play that kind of graphics, but keep these 60 FPS? Like
I would argue
it's
Star Wars. Star Wars is the one game that you want to play with ray tracing. You want that lightsaber glowing off everything.
Okay, that is true.
It's getting to the point though that I think the argument needs to be made that no one, like, guys, if we want ray tracing that badly, fucking buy a PC. That's what it's for.
Yeah.
The console market is not supposed to be for the most high-end luxury gameplay. It's meant to be for family, for people that are able to afford that.
No. It is not for that. There is a group of people like who do not want to screw. Like I am someone who does not want to screw with PC. I don't want to update drivers. I don't want to troubleshoot. I like my console because I pay the money, I buy the game, and I know that it's going to work. I don't need to like troubleshoot anything.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about it being working. I'm talking about all this extra flair that, let's be real, doesn't change the gameplay or doesn't change your experience at all. It's just luxury.
Like, those console players do want that as well, but like they also are of the mind that like, hey, we're not going to get it all. That's the price of convenience. I think
getting close to the point of saying, do they want it, or are they being told that they want it? Because I don't think that the vast majority, if you actually put the gun to their head, give a shit about the lighting effects on a window.
I do. Like for me, I thought Ratchet and Clank did it absolutely perfect. Where it's like, hey, you can choose 2 of 3. Do you want 60 frames, ray tracing, or do you want 4K? You can have 2 of those 3. Pick which one. Yeah, that was the way to do it.
I think that's what it's got to be. Because I do agree that ray tracing can look really cool, and some people do really want it, but it shouldn't be an always on. Like, I think it was Persona 3 tanked when it first came out in certain areas.
It shouldn't be dictating what developers make it, because it's what's causing a lot of these games to break.
Yeah, it's got to be an optional thing. Spider-Man did it. Ratchet and Clank even had a really cool feature where they had a 40 FPS mode. Where it would only, I think you had that as an option if you had a 120 hertz screen, but still you could actually get like 40 FPS ray tracing and like a higher resolution. It wasn't the full 60, but it looked great. Like 40 versus 30 is a huge upgrade. Like make these options. Like I'm actually not upset when those options are there. I don't need a PS5 Pro where I no longer have the options because I get 4K and ray tracing and 60 FPS. And by the way, with the PS5 Pro, they're also talking about that PlayStation AI upscaling. That means it's not going to be 4K. That means they're going to be using like the DLSS and FSR technology to upscale it to 4K, which is like still not great because the more you upscale, the more blurry the image gets. That's the issue with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I think. But yeah, like keep the options there. Like I would when I put on Miles Morales and I first turned on the PS5 and it was like, do you want 60 ray tracing? Do you want ray tracing but higher graphics? Or do you just want 60 high graphics, no ray tracing? Like you got to pick basically like Ratchet and Clank 2 out of the 3. And I know maybe they can't do 2 out of 3. Maybe you can only pick 1 now, but then just let us pick. I'm okay having to pick. If it's a console, I'm okay. If it's a PC, I'm not, because what the fuck am I paying all this money for? But if it's just a console, I'm okay with that. Like, it makes sense. If even Astrobot had a 4K or a performance, off I go, because it still looks good enough. Horizon was good enough. Spider-Man 2 was good enough. They all looked great in their performance modes. And, like, they should just leave the options in and just take what we have and make it more stable. Not charge us another $1,000 to try and stabilize it that way. Like throw more power at it. We'll fix the problem that way.
Because that's what I was going to also comment on too. Is like, is this going to affect people that don't upgrade with future games now?
Probably. I think so.
Are we going to start feeling like we own a Series S when games start?
I don't think it's going to be like that much, but I think it's going to be one of those. Like I remember when the PS4 Pro came out. And it was like, that became the benchmark. That became the standard. And they're like, oh yeah, it looks great on this. It also runs on the other one. But like towards the end, it was very much of the idea that they were built for the PS4 Pros. Now, I don't think that's necessarily the case because Sony's going to find out very quickly whether or not this thing is a success or not.
Yeah.
Because like, I want to circle back to this conversation in a second, but I'll stay on this and I'm going to bring up another topic later. But like, I think there's the idea, like, we're going to see whether or not this fails or succeeds. And frankly, I don't think this is going to get the adoption rate. I think this is going to very much be like a PSVR 2 where probably people are going to buy it and then no one's going to support it. Right. And then there are
analysts that claim that it's going to do as well, that they think it's going to do as well as the PS4 Pro. And I go, I cannot imagine what kind of drugs you must be taking to think that that's going to happen.
Well, once again, the PS4 Pro had a lot of things coming for it. Like it came at a time when like the economy was doing well. The economy is not.
It also launched at $399 US.
Yeah, it was so much cheaper.
That's the thing. Like it was cheaper there, and the economy was better. Like who's been saying, "Hey, man, I've got this $1,000 sitting around, and I need something to do with it." Like,
well, like I said, even with inflation, it's still almost $200 cheaper than what the PS5 Pro is being launched at. So, like,
yeah.
No, I completely agree. So I'm saying like it's not coming out in a good economy. It's not like at a price where people can justify it. Like I think the only way that I could see this thriving is if GameStop has some amazing promotion. But even still, like the
it'll probably be what, $200-$300 at most.
That's the thing. The PS5 Pro I like used at EB Games is going for like $500. So that's the ceiling. You're not getting more than $500.
Yeah, so if you're here in Canada, you're going to be paying $959.99 for it. That's still not including the drive or the stand. You want to trade in your game? Okay, here's $250. Okay, you've still got like $1,000 once taxes are included. Congratulations, you own a new console.
Yeah,
it's.
I don't think this is going to do. I don't think this is going to do well.
No. And we had mentioned like, are we going to feel like we have the Series S? I also just realized, like, if you're a developer, you now have to develop. If this is successful enough that you focus on a PS5 Pro, and then PS5 and Xbox Series X, and then a Series S, because they are all kind of the same, right? They're all like Xbox and PlayStation.
If it ends up being a third-party developer that's doing it for everything, oh my god, that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're a third-party developer,
I don't think that's going to be a huge issue, like the PS5 Pro to the PS5. Here's my thought.
It's more the PS4 or PS5 Pro to a Series S is going to be the real issue.
Yes.
Yeah. You got to try and get it to run.
That's the other thing too, is Microsoft customers now are going to be looking at this being like, oh shit.
I don't think Microsoft customers are looking at this being like, oh shit. But I think for like the PS5 to PS5 Pro, it's just a matter that like it's a toggle switch. Like they've already built the 4K, they've already built the 60 FPS. It's just a matter of now you just don't need to put that slider on. So, but one thing I want to talk about on this thing, like this presentation they did, we saw like 4, maybe 5 games. Is it weird that they like the newest game we saw was Spider-Man 2 from like
Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't that kind of tell you how quiet Sony's been for the last?
Well, this is the thing.
while?
Like we talked about, like maybe
Even
they
third
should-
party.
Maybe this wasn't even the time to launch a PS5 Pro because you have nothing this calendar year. What am I going to do?
This would have
Buy
been a great
PS5?
time to throw on like Wolverine or something to be like, hey, here's one of the first big exclusive games you're gonna be able to see on this platform with all of its glory.
Well, I
Yeah.
think if I recall, the PS4 Pro came out right around the time like one of the big games came out. I think. Like, am I wrong? Was like God of War not, like-
Horizon or God of War or Spider-Man or
No
something. I
idea.
feel like it could be the same.
I don't
Yeah.
double check while we talk through this, but like you're showing me like this new console, and the only thing you're showing me is you're showing Ratchet and Clank, which is from what
2020.
2000
Like it was like a
2020.
launch title almost, I think.
It wasn't a launch, but it was like a year or two after. It was like maybe 2022. Then you're showing me Last of Us Part 2, which is a PS4 game that has been remade or remastered. So you're showing me a PS4 game, you're showing me a game from 2021, 2022, and you're showing me a game from 2023. Why? Why are you not showing me like the newest game that you got? Like,
Yeah.
show me something new, show me something that wows me, right? Don't show me the games that I've already played because I've played those games. I don't want to go back and play Last of Us. I
No.
don't want to go back and play Spider-Man, especially with my new $1,000 console. I want something brand new that when I open my PS5 Pro, I have the latest, greatest game, and I can just totally justify my purchase by being like, wow, look how amazing this is. Whether that is, any of the games that they've been working on, like
Yeah.
they came with nothing. It's like you've launched a console with no games. And no
But let's
reason to
also
push
be
this-
honest. You would play The Last of Us first if you got the new console. That would be the first
Maybe.
game you play.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying no. But I'm just saying, like, you've launched a game you've launched a console with no console launched games, like no launch games.
Yeah.
How do you
It was
justify that? Like,
It's kind of weird too because like not only did they show those games, but the presentation started with like the PS5 had 2 8-core CPU blah 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 and gave us amazing experiences.
that's just Mark Cerny being Mark Cerny.
Yeah. Anyways, here's why this was shit and you need this thing. And it's like they just ripped on their own stuff. It wasn't even like, hey, look at how it would look on an Xbox versus the PS5 Pro, or this is what you would get on a different console or something similar PC. They were like, on PS5, which we just hyped up a bit, it's not good enough anymore because you have to choose. We made you have to choose. Now we're going to take away that because look at our new console, so much better than the old one. It was almost like if anybody was thinking of getting a PS5, were they trying to scare them into like, you can't just get a PS5, it's no good enough anymore, got to go to the Pro? Or like, that was a little weird because it was like Ratchet and Clank looked amazing. Who the heck was sitting around being like, this game's shit, it's not good enough? Like, no one. But it seems like Mark Cerny was.
I guess I'm just looking at
to answer your question earlier, the console launched in September 2016. Nothing really of any note didn't come out, and not even first party for Sony the rest of the year, except for late December. The end of November, Final Fantasy 15 came out, and then in late December was The Last Guardian. So like nothing
Okay.
major, honestly.
Weird. I assumed it was like Spider-Man or something that came with it, but that was 2017.
Yeah,
Huh.
like there's nothing towards the end of the year that was like a first party other than The Last Guardian, which really doesn't count because it was in production for so goddamn long.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, it's just weird that there's nothing even on the horizon that like,
Yeah.
like I'm looking here and the next game that they have is Silent Hill 2 remake. That's the last game that we have announced.
Yeah.
With like Death Stranding
Yeah,
2
like,
being
I guess we could even go beyond that. Not even just who is it for, what is it for?
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
are-
Are we
Wolverine.
basically just admitting that we're building this console specifically for GTA 6 and just going with that? Is that what they're doing? Like, I don't know what they're going for here.
But even still, you know what? Release it like wait a year, wait for GTA 6 and be like, hey, guess what? GTA 6 is coming out in October, September. We're
Yeah, it
launching
almost
the
feels like it'd be
PS5
great
Pro.
to be like, hey, by the way, here's a bunch of games to go with it. You know, instead of releasing at a time where you have nothing to show people.
Nothing.
right.
Like Astrobot already runs well. No one's like, God, I need the Pro for this. Like the controller launch for Astrobot makes sense. Timely. Everybody wants it. It's gorgeous. This Pro makes no sense. GTA 6 would have been perfect. If they had lined it up and then their tagline was the only console to run GTA 6 at 60 FPS, yeah, this console will be a success.
Or even just like PS5 Pro optimized for GTA 6 or GTA 6. Like pay Rockstar and be like, hey, just put in there optimized for PS5 Pro. You would have like so much more, so many more people buying it.
Yeah. If both Xbox consoles could only run it at 30 FPS or something, and then all of a sudden you get a PS5 Pro that it can run GTA 6, people would buy it just for that one game. Much like people buy PlayStations just to play Call of Duty every year, right? Like sometimes that's what people do, and GTA 6 is going to be massive, and it's going to be, that would have been the perfect. That, and then I heard a friend of mine had mentioned Bloodborne. If they had mentioned like all of a sudden Bloodborne is finally coming, I don't know.
Bloodborne there's a small niche group that wants Bloodborne. It is not.
Well, all 4 of them would have bought
but
a Pro.
But at least it would have been something that's built for this friggin' thing.
Agreed. I think showing games
instead,
that are 2-3 years old is not worth it.
I guess I could play the new MLB The Show on it. I don't like, what the fuck's it for?
It's for The Last of Us. It's The Last of Us machine.
Yeah, it's probably for another Last of Us remake.
Last of Us 2 remastered or whatever, like what is it? That is a PS4 game, doesn't it? Doesn't the remaster already run at like almost 4K 60 or whatever? Like, what is that run at that it would need a Pro or at least?
Look, The Last of Us is just becoming Sony's equivalent of Todd Howard whenever you have to announce Skyrim or Fallout or something. Okay, just accept it.
I'm a huge Last of Us fan, and I have to admit that it is becoming the new. It is the PlayStation equivalent of, hey, you guys like Skyrim? We got a Skyrim for you.
Now I'm just picturing like this announcement, and they announced like a PS5 Pro optimized Skyrim, like that's the game that they put with it. It would have been something.
I think ultimately, as much as the price and just the overall like not feeling like it's that much of an improvement, I think the most like damning evidence that this was a poor decision is because there wasn't anything new being shown to accompany it.
Yeah.
Because it really makes us believe that they're just trying to milk us. That's all it feels like. It doesn't feel like it's for us. It feels like it's for them.
I'm not saying I'm going to do this, but I think I'm going to tweet Todd Howard and ask him how long before they update Skyrim for the PS5 Pro.
I'm not saying I'm not going to do it.
But yeah, I honestly believe it. As we've kind of talked about, the longer I think about it, the more that I go, this isn't for us. It's for them. It's for their wallets. It's for their margins. I don't feel like this is for anybody.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think we could wrap it up.
We keep talking more and more, and we keep coming up as like, who's buying this? Like, why?
Why? That's all.
If you're looking for graphics, you're already looking at gaming PCs.
Yeah,
at that price especially.
Yeah, I think they missed the mark. I think $600, $600 to $700 was like my ceiling of what $700 is probably where my ceiling was. But
the things I could do with a Steam Deck instead of getting a PS5 Pro.
I'm just saying, like,
I'm gonna need your expertise in a moment because I'm gonna go look up on just some random computer website and see what like a gaming PC is right now for around the same price of $1,000. And Chris, you can tell me, if that's actually like probably a comparable deal because you would know this way better than I ever would.
I'll admit it probably won't to what the specs are for the PS5 Pro is, especially since PC has like Windows and everything running in the background.
Yeah.
But it's like not enough of a difference in price that you wouldn't just drop the extra.
By also finding something on a sale to give it a real shot.
Okay. It's just that point. If you're gonna spend $1,000, just spend $1,200 and get a PC. Like just that extra $200 will last you for years, and a PS5 Pro will last you 3 years.
So here's one that I found. I found a machine that has a Ryzen 5 7600 with an RTX 4060, and it's for $1,169 on sale.
That will be okay. So it depends on like with Windows and everything being installed and all that. It would still be close. You could easily, again, with PC, one great thing, you get to choose all the options. So you can be like, I want this to be 1440p 60 FPS. You get to choose that. You don't have to have ray tracing on. You can turn it off. Like you can make it run as well as you want and optimize what you care about. So you could make it run better. Like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, if it was on that PC, you could make it run better than what you could get that on like this PS5. The PS5 Pro.
So it's basically saying like for almost the same price or maybe just a tiny bit more, you could get basically the same experience, but being able to actually tune it perfectly to your system, rather than hoping that they design this game perfectly for this all intents one purpose machine.
Yes, like the best experience I've still had with a PlayStation game was Horizon New Dawn, and that's because I had it on Steam on a PC, even though it was back then. I had it going at like 90 frames per second at like a very high resolution, and it looked freaking gorgeous. Had everything turned up, and that's for something that's like I don't even think as strong as a PS5 in these days. But yeah, it's you can tweak the settings, but again, yeah, because it's way too expensive to be just a console. Because like the console still only does what a console does, and you don't have all the options. You're limiting yourself. For the same price, you could get a PC. Yes, Kaylan, you're right. Updating drivers, that kind of crap. But you can get basically that game to run and a bunch of other games at a lot cheaper, and you don't pay for cloud saves, and you don't pay for online, and you don't have to deal with PlayStation Plus, and you don't have to deal with all that. Honestly, the corporate bullshit that kind of comes along with PlayStation these days, and even a little bit of Xbox. So actually, Xbox is just like corporate weird decisions that seems like it's not even for them. I don't think they sometimes don't know what they're doing. But
and you can also do your taxes on it, nerd.
You can do your taxes on a Steam Deck. You want to get a really good deal? Get a Steam Deck. It comes with Linux. You can go into desktop mode. I've got stuff on there. I just got Spotify. Sometimes I just put it on. Yeah.
I think we can wrap it up saying like I don't think any of us are going to bat and saying that this was a win for Sony. I think Sony.
No, and I don't think any of us are going to sit here and say that we're going to buy it unless you know some crazy check kind of clears suddenly all this, But I mean, thanks for the money, Sony. As we totally say, yeah, you should totally buy this console. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we talk way too much shit. No one thinks we're getting sponsored by them.
Oh, I'm pretty. Yeah,
Today's
with all the
been
views that
sponsored
we
by
get here, we haven't even got enough subscribers for the serial episode yet. You think we're getting sponsors?
Put Sony next to the Tim Hortons on companies that are not sponsoring us this week.
Hey, if Sony reaches out and offers us 3 PS5 Pros, I'll take it for testing purposes.
I'm not going to say no, but like, not holding out my breath. But, ladies and gentlemen, if you are still here with us, thank you so much for sticking around and watching the episode. Leave a comment. Let us know if you plan on buying a PS5 Pro. And if not, what was the sweet spot that would have been your number to get into this new console? If you haven't yet, subscribe. It helps us. It helps the algorithm gods. Makes you much cooler with your friends. You can tell them that you subscribe to the PixelPlay Podcast. You can find us wherever you get your podcast by searching for, PixelPlay Podcast. Or you can find us on YouTube and Spotify if you want to see this face talking to you. With that, we will see you guys on Friday for our bonus side quest episode this Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, exclusively on YouTube. We will see you guys then. Bye for now.